Hi, I'm Linda, and this is No Frills ASMR. I am about to film a video, a little spooky, about the Mothman. And I have had some requests to do videos about cryptids, which are things like Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, the Mothman, Kubra Cabra, what is it called? Sorry, the one in Mexico. There are a lot of them. And I have considered this, but my problem is I don't know if the people asking me to do them are big time believers or not. And I don't want to offend anybody. Excuse me. But I am not a big time believer. That's some. But today we are going to talk about the Mothman in the next video, which I'm not sure when that'll come out. Maybe a little spooky for Halloween. I don't know. Maybe tonight I'll film that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the reality of part of the story of the Mothman. When we had our family reunion in Kentucky, I did a video about it. And after the reunion, I went to Tennessee. But my kids were on their way home and took a little detour to go to the Mothman Museum. And they said it was mostly a museum about the movie that was made with Richard Gere. But they did talk to me a little bit about it. And to be honest, I didn't know anything about the Mothman. But let's first pull out our old atlas here. And I'll show you where he's located. I think at least most of the time. And it's actually an area that I've already done a video about, which is West Virginia. Oh my God, I just looked in the camera. I think I need to get my hair cut. It's showing up in frame here. All right, so we are going to look Detroit. Do you want to know where I grew up? I'll show you. Hold on. Let me find it. Right there, Royal Oak. People have asked me to do a video with stories from like childhood. And I've been thinking about that, but one of the stories is kind of dark because I grew up in the 70s in Royal Oak, which is part of Oakland County. And so any of you who might know true crime might know what was going on at that time. All right. Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Jersey, New Mexico. I like New Mexico. I'm thinking about doing like a weekend trip to Santa Fe. Adirondack Mountains. New York, Manhattan. North Carolina. North Dakota. Okay, we're getting close here. But we'll go ahead to West Virginia, although it's really on the border of West Virginia and Ohio. Did I skip it? Wait. STUVW. Here we go. Washington, West Virginia. here's the state of West Virginia. And we're going to an area that's the border of Ohio and West Virginia. Okay, here we go. And let's see. I don't know if this will help you or not. I don't know. But it's right. Oh, I just saw it. No, I lost it. Hold on. Right here. Point Pleasant, West Virginia. Yeah. Okay. So on December 15th of 1967, sorry, there was a bridge collapse over the Ohio River in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And the bridge, I think it was called the Point Pleasant Bridge, but it was often referred to as the Silver Bridge because it was painted silver. And it was during rush hour on the night of December 15th. And there was actually a lineup of cars to get onto the bridge. That's how busy it was. And this bridge was a suspension bridge. And it had been built in 1928. Around the same time as quite a few, there had been suspension bridges for a long time, but this one was built about the same time as some famous Pittsburgh bridges, the Three Sisters, and in particular the Roberto Clemente Bridge. And they had similar structural designs. I'm not a structural engineer, and I didn't even try to totally look up the design because I can't draw anyway. But from what I could tell, on land there were pieces, what do you call them? I can't think of the word right now, but anyway. And then there were two that were within the water. What do you call these guys? Help me. I'm losing this word right now. Shoot. It's so weird when you lose a word and you're not in conversation with somebody, because if I were with anybody, they could give me the word. And now I'm stressing it. I won't be able to think of it. Oh, yeah. Anyway. I may have to start over. I can't think of the word. Anyway, so it had the structural poles. It'll come to me. And then it had it was suspended. It was suspension. So it had like suspension things like this holding the bridge up. And I think the part that failed was called a I-bar. And the thing with like the Three Sisters that I talked about in Pittsburgh, or the Roberto Clemente Bridge, it would have 6 chains coming off. It had redundancy in its I-bars. But this bridge had 2. So when one cracked, and I can't tell you what it looked like, I don't know. But when one cracked and it wasn't found, then it failed, and it only has one holding it. And basically once it fell, it started to collapse. The whole piece collapsed, from what I understood from a eyewitness account, and the thing just collapsed into the water. I'm not explaining that very well. And this drawing is not helping you. But what I'm telling you is, instead of having 6 little chains coming off, it had 2. And so when one failed, then there was only one left, and it just couldn't hold the weight because it was overloaded, I think, because it was rush hour, and they ended up having heavier and more cars than ever counted on when it was built in 1928. And so it collapsed. And it collapsed, by the way, in December into the Ohio River, which was freezing cold. So there wasn't a whole lot of hope, unfortunately, for a lot of those people. And 46 people died that day. And 9, I think, were injured. So it was a giant catastrophe, for the area. It's a smaller town area. It doesn't matter though. That's a lot of people. In fact, it's the biggest bridge disaster in modern history, I think, to this day, even with the Key Bridge, right? Because they didn't have 46 people. However, after this happened, it did start the NBIS, which is the National Bridge Inspection Standard, which at least gets bridges eyeballed to look for cracks, and then sometimes they use sensors and things they can put through to check the construction of the bridge. But we need more infrastructure in this country. A lot of the bridges are not doing well, and that's a reality. This is a terrible drawing, and I apologize. Oh, but before actually, I'm going to redo this because I can't stand it. It's so bad. I thought I could do better than that, but apparently not. I think if I did this, right, and then put a pillar, is that the word I was looking for? I don't know. Like that. My pen's dying, oh no. And then like that. Hold on. Get a new pen. This video is falling apart. So yeah. So here's our bridge. Okay. So I think it had like these eye bars that were like chains or something. They're like, but they said solid, so I'm still confused. I don't know what they were exactly. But that's what gave way. So when the thing collapsed, of course it's awful and terrible. But a year or two before it happened, there had been a sighting by a young couple of a spooky man with wings who looked almost like a moth with red eyes. And so the urban legend, or whatever you want to call it, became that the Mothman, maybe watched from the shore as the bridge collapsed, and that he was sort of a harbinger of doom. So that's the Mothman story, or whether he had something to do with it, I don't know. But when I heard that some people believe that the Mothman is why this bridge collapsed, that's where I get like kind of put off by these sort of legends, because that's dumb, and what we need is more checking of our infrastructure to save human lives, and quit spending so much time worrying about the Mothman. Because what's more likely, that an eyelid gave way because we didn't inspect it often enough, or that a Mothman showed up and cast a spell or something on the bridge, causing it to fall. So while I do think these things are all in good fun, I'm not a fan of when human lives were lost and they're kind of making light of it in a way. But I do think that from what I heard about the museum, they were spending more time looking at the movie version and not really discussing this so much. So maybe they're trying to get away from that. But I did try to listen to part of a podcast, and they were kind of talking about thinking this is because of this, and that is where I draw a line. Because 46 people died, and they were on their way to go Christmas shopping, and that's a problem. It was in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, yeah. Anyway, so having said all that, just so you know where I stand, I am going to make a spooky video about the cryptid known as the Mothman, but know that I am saying it with a I don't know what's the word. Tongue in cheek, something like that. And I hope people don't go off a deep end. There was a time when my son was younger, and as a joke, he started posting, pretending kind of like he believed in the flat earth theory. And he was making a deal about the guy who was going to shoot himself up in a rocket to prove flat earth. I don't know. It was a joke. But he very quickly realized a lot of his friends were actually really serious about it and believing it. And he had to get away from that. So I'll just tell you that I am a person who believes in that the truth is usually the easiest thing, not the most outlandish thing. How about that? Okay, so having said all that, let's talk about the Mothman in this next video. And hopefully it won't be so scary that it spooks you out. Alright, I will talk to you guys soon. Bye. There's a suspension bridge. That's what I was trying to draw. Oh, now I get it. The Roberta Clemente probably has 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But this bridge only had 2. That must be what they mean. So these are the... So when one of these breaks,